Hey everyone, this is Andrew from the band Ironflame, and you are listening to What's Metal.
Great that you can take a couple of minutes to talk to us. You're back in Europe, you're back in Germany, and actually you're back in the Zille. Yeah, so what does that feel like?
It feels fantastic. It feels like coming home. The last time we talked pretty much in this very same spot in a different van. What was it? 3 years ago. Yeah, 2019. I'd like to say that a lot's changed since then. The world has changed a lot, but unfortunately, for us and so many other bands, not much has changed because we've been just sitting here patiently waiting for the world to kick back into normalcy again. So, but here we are, and that's what matters.
Yeah, and it's pretty normal actually. So that's cool. Yeah, I've seen that you've been you are being followed around by your stalker Ralph again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ralph is our mascot. We consider him another member of the band at this point. No, we love that dude.
Yeah, great. Yeah, you just said it. Last time we spoke was 2019. I mean, for the band, a lot has happened since, right? I mean, it's 2 more albums are out. Yeah. So what is it that the listeners need to know about what has happened in between?
Well, not long after we talked, Blood Red Victory, the album Blood Red Victory, got released in February of 2020, right before the pandemic hit, and it really, like so many other bands, stopped us in our tracks because we had this brand new album and we had no way to promote it other than selling it on the internet. We had so many shows in line for 2020, including Headbangers Open Air, Stormcrusher Festival, South Troopers Festival in southern France, all these great opportunities to promote this album, and it just got pulled out from under us like every other band in the world. So we really had to up our game as far as pushing it on the internet. So what I chose to do was try and connect with everybody more personally as much as I possibly could. I went live on Instagram multiple times and got intimate with the album to try and personally connect with people to get them interested in the album. I went through a different day. I would go over a different song and share an interesting little fact about the song, be it why it was written, what it's about, something interesting that happened during the recording process, what my inspiration was. So I just... like every other band, had to get inventive to stay connected with the fan base and stay relevant in that time period. Yeah.
How was that received? Was it okay?
I think it was well received considering. Yes, if you look at the numbers, the sales, I think it did amazingly well considering that there was no avenue to really promote it live and in front of people's faces. And finally, once the world started to return back to normal, we did get to play it out a handful of times, and the vinyl is sold very well. The CD is, I think, on its second pressing right now, and not long after, when the pandemic actually hit, it actually was a double blow to me. I had a business partner that I've been business partners with for years who got diagnosed with cancer, and at a very late stage. It advanced very rapidly, and I unfortunately lost him in January of 2020. So that, in conjunction with the pandemic, put me into a very dark space mentally that I've never been before, honestly. I'm a really positive person, and I experienced depression for the first time in my life, and I didn't know how to deal with it in a healthy way other than to express it in music. So the album that's out now, which is entitled Where Madness Dwells, is the byproduct of all the emotions I was feeling at the time, and it's not just it's dealing with my friend's death, but it's also dealing with all the chaos that was around me, hence the title. The entire album, the theme of it revolves around the idea of madness. There was, the world was at a standstill. The political climate where I'm from was very volatile and unstable. People were turning on each other left and right, and it was a scary place. So I wrote about all those things, and I tried to basically lay it out, not necessarily as a concept. There's no chronology per se, like like a King Diamond album or anything like that. But I did really think about the song order and the subjects that I discussed as far as the album flow is concerned. Yeah.
I mean, that's very tragic, actually, and I mean, the listeners probably remember that. I mean, the reason why Ironflame started, or why you started Ironflame, was the loss of another close person, right? Yeah.
Yeah, a tribute to a fallen friend was the whole reason that the band became a band to begin with. So, the tradition continues tragically, unfortunately, but. It's my way of, like I said, working through these emotions and at the same time honoring these people that I care about so much.
So when you, since you just mentioned the new album, when I heard it for the first time, I thought, okay, this sounds far more serious in a way. So it kind of like matches what you just told me. And possibly also a little bit less accessible maybe than the previous records, So what kind of feedback did you get so far?
Well, I'm glad that you picked up on that because I mean it was evident to me, but and I was, I don't want to say I was scared, but I was a little concerned because we're so known for the epic, upbeat, fist banging heavy metal anthems that we do that are normally very fantasy based, lyrically speaking, and this was so serious and such a lyrical shift, an emotional shift that once I stood back and listened to it, I thought, man, I hope I'm not going to lose anybody here, because it's so serious. But I was, the hope that I was holding on to was that other people would listen and relate to all the chaos that I was feeling at the time and that they had to be feeling too, because, the world experienced the pandemic. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just the country I was in. It was the entire world. And the shutdown of life, and more importantly, the shutdown of heavy metal as a lifestyle, I think affected so many people that I thought everyone has to be feeling these same feelings. Everybody has to be feeling like their world's been taken away, because it was. When I put it out into the world, I was like, okay, let's wait for the reviews and see what comes in. And thankfully, everybody understood what I was saying and related to it. And what I think the most positive thing to me that came out of the reviews were, and I hope I don't segregate anybody by saying this, but we've always been kind of lumped in and labeled power metal, and I've never ever felt that we were a power metal band. I've always felt that we're a heavy metal band, tried and true, right up the middle. I don't think that we lean one way or the other, and with every single one of these reviews, everyone said Ironflame is a traditional heavy metal band. Ironflame is a traditional heavy metal band, and that made me feel so good. I mean, I definitely shifted the music to go with the emotions, and I did purposefully shift the songwriting, shift the song structures, shift the emphasis each song has, from the epic guitar harmonies being the hooks of the songs to a more riff-based approach, more stripped down, more raw, and more traditional. And I was just overjoyed that it translated to the listener who didn't know that. They picked up on it right away. Yeah.
So it's great to hear that you have this outlet, for your emotions and your creativity through the music, especially when you're feeling kind of like depressed. I hope you're feeling better now.
Yes, very much. Fantastic. Yes.
Okay. So would you consider yourself to be kind of like more like a solitary person, to keep that keeps stuff to himself, and then just kind of like send it out through the music, or do you have...
I think that I'm a very social person. I'm a very open person, and I even when I try and hide my feelings, I'm terrible at it. Everybody can tell when I'm feeling a certain way. I wear it on my face. So I knew long ago that being a solitary person and hiding my emotions was just not an option for me. So no, I'm very open about it. But at the same time, like I said, I've never dealt with depression. I know so many people have dealt with it their entire lives, and now I see the weight of what depression can bring upon your soul, and I understand it, and I know that there's there's only a few healthy ways to process it. I totally understand why someone would turn to alcohol, someone would turn to drugs, someone would turn to self-harm. I understand why it's easy for you to want to turn to these things, but really the only, I think, positive way is to be open and be vulnerable and admit, like, I feel weak right now. I feel scared. I'm not happy, and I don't know what I need to do about this, but talking about it is the first step into exercising those demons, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, in the context of the pandemic, that is something that probably will take some time to actually be measured in some way. You know, it's easy to measure infections, to measure death, yeah, but psychological problems, I mean, it's very difficult to count or measure, right? Yeah.
You can't see them. You're right. They're invisible scars, basically. It's impossible to look at someone and feel what they're going through. So I think it was a double-edged sword. I think, the pandemic cut so many people deeply, but at the same time, I also think that it brought us all together. I think nothing makes a person or a society or a species grow more than enduring something together. It's a bonding experience, right? Whether it be positive or negative, you come out of it feeling like you've endured something together, and it's the old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So now that the world is returning to normal, I'm reconnecting with all these beautiful heavy metal people. I'm starting to realize, we all felt the same things, and yeah, the world fucking sucked for a couple of years, but we're back, baby. We're back. Yeah.
In fact, actually, you have a double opportunity for bonding tonight, right? The listeners don't know it, but I mean, you're playing actually 2 gigs. Yeah, one with Icarus Witch.
This is true.
And then one with Ironflame, yeah. So with the heat that we have here, I mean, that's quite a feat, no? Like, I mean, we are talking between the 2 gigs, yeah. So how do you feel now, and how will you feel after you're done tonight?
Thankfully, I was concerned. I mean, I've been concerned this whole weekend because we've only done this once as far as performing in both bands in one night. We did Stormbringer Festival in Massachusetts in June, and that was the first experimental test for performing in both bands in the same night, and it felt good then, but then that was just one night. So I thought, well, can I be in a plane for 8 hours and then drive for 12 hours and then still do the same thing 3 times in a row? I'm not sure. So this is night 2 of 3. So last night was Headbangers, and Headbangers was an amazing experience. It was crawling with just beautiful people, and I worked my voice pretty hard, between singing, signing things, reconnecting, talking to so many people, and we just got done with the Icarus set now, and my voice feels strong. I feel good. Yeah.
I mean, besides those 2 bands, you have tons of other projects and bands that you're making music with or for. I mean, we can maybe, if you keep up the training, we can have an Andrew Fest in a couple of years. Yeah, and you play with like 10 bands, no?
I like the way that you said that. Keep up with the training, because it would definitely entail some hardcore training to perform in all those bands. But maybe, hey, never say never, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, between all these bands, I mean, how do you prioritize, actually? I mean, there's the aspect, obviously, of songwriting, but then also, committing time to playing and recording. Is that sometimes difficult for you?
It's really, when you say prioritize, it's really all about time management. And I think a lot about that. I'm constantly thinking and making sure that I'm giving proper and equal attention to every band and project that I'm involved with at any given time. It is tough to manage, but if you're mindful of it and you manage the time right, there's room. I've had an active year with Brimstone Coven. I've had an active year with a very active year with Ironflame so far, snapping back. Icarus Witch is back up after a few years of dormancy. We're doing really well, and we're really active. The other project I'm involved with, Nachachwin, is very active. Just got done playing a festival this year too. So it can definitely happen. It could definitely work without slighting any one other project. It's just all about being mindful about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Last time we spoke, actually, I was asking you, do you have a real band together now? But then again, I mean, I mean, you're still, writing everything, recording everything. So how much of a band do you actually have? Or, when I see you on stage and also interacting, I mean, it's more than hired hands, right?
It's absolutely more than that. To me, the band is the band, and I'm merely a player in it. Because I couldn't do this without any of these guys. These guys are Ironflame as far as I'm concerned. And it's no different than, Chris Black with what he does with High Spirits, Midnight. There's plenty of bands that, and I call them bands because they go out and they represent themselves live. So they are bands that go out and do this very same thing. It's just, it's definitely not that I don't want these musicians on the recordings. They're way better musicians than I ever could be. It's purely a convenience thing. When the inspiration strikes me, it's 9 times out of 10, it's in the middle of the night when I'm by myself. I have a home studio in my basement. So I just, capitalize on the inspiration times and write all the stuff then and then present it to them. They learn it flawlessly and we present it live. That's the way it works most efficiently. So, yeah.
So out of all of the instruments that you have to play for such recordings, do you have a favorite or one instrument that you actually kind of like hate, but you, for convenience sake, you still play it?
Yeah, I hate playing drums. I mean, if I was good at playing drums, I would love them, but I'm not. So, that's always kind of a chore because, metal is very demanding in the drum realm. So, and I'm only, a mediocre drummer at best. So I'm always struggling to do the drum tracks. But bass has always been my favorite instrument to play. And I do play bass and vocals in Brimstone Coven. So I do get my my outlet for that in a live atmosphere there. That band's been around since 2011. So I think if I had to pick a favorite instrument, a desert island instrument, if you will, it would absolutely be bass guitar. Mm-hmm.
So I think you're using your studio equipment also to record other bands' music or do some producing, right? Yeah.
I used to pretty actively. Nowadays, just because all the bands have been doing so well and getting so much attention and being so active, I've done it a lot less. I'm not opposed to it, but I have to really be either intimately involved in it personally, or it has to be a really good friend with really good music that I want to produce and can work around my crazy schedule too.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, if you look then at the past with bands coming in to record with you, I mean, what's the worst thing that a band can do when they come for a recording?
That's easy. Be ill prepared. If you think you know your songs, think again because you probably don't. So many times I've had bands come in and start working on parts, and one of the other musicians looks at them and says, "Hey, wait a second, what are you playing there?" And the musician will play it, and he'll say, "I never heard you play that." "Well, I've been playing that since day one." "Oh, well, that clashes with what I'm playing, so we need to rethink this entire part here." And then you're back to the drawing board, like the structuring and the rudimentary stages of songwriting, which is not where you should be when you're recording an album. You should be well past that. So if I could say anything to bands, do pre-production, demo your stuff before you go into the studio. That way you have all those bugs worked out. That will help you the most in the long run.
Jeez, I mean, that would piss me off so much, actually. I'm not producing music, but I would lose my temper, actually.
It's infuriating, right? How could you not know your own stuff? But, when you're playing loud music, at a frenetic pace, I guess it's easy to overlook somebody who's playing something, a few notes off,
Yeah, okay. All right, so actually, we have to return to the new album. I only have the promo, yeah, but you have the some kind of like a voice sample in the beginning and also at the end. Is it actually Vincent Price by any chance?
It is, yes, that is. That's from The Mask of the Red Death, from, I believe, 1963, maybe? Yes.
I recognize that voice, because when I was younger, as a teen, I really loved those old movies, Dr. Phibes and stuff.
Ah, yes. He's got the most iconic, creepy voice in cinema history, yes. And I just revisited that movie during the pandemic at the same time I was writing, and I said, man, this is so relevant to what I'm writing about. I have to use it. So, I know those were, I think both of the samples I used were also used on a Theater of Tragedy album from like 1996. People were quick to point that out, and I knew that prior to. But again, it was just so relevant to what I was doing. I just felt it was a great way to introduce and exit the album, so that's why I used them.
Yeah, actually, it works very well. I didn't know about the Theater of Tragedy thing there, but when the album starts, first of all, I wasn't expecting it. And second, it kind of like gets you, it sets the tone in a way, So you say that, you think, oh shit, it's going to be dark in a way,
That's it. I mean, and that's why I chose Everlasting Fire for the first song. There was no doubt in my mind that had to be the first song. And the reason being is basically, lyrically, that song kind of drops you off in hell and says, see you, I'm never coming back to pick you up. I'm never returning. Have fun in your new life in hell. So it's kind of preparing you and setting the stage for the madness and the chaos and the anger and the despair, and all these other emotions that are going to come at you during this album in one way or another. So that's why it had to be the first song. Yeah.
Okay, so the last question traditionally is always, what's metal? But I mean, you answered that already last time around. You said, it's a social aspect, it's a great emotional music, and even sitting together in a van talking about metal is metal. So I guess that's still the same, right?
It will always be the same. Like I don't have a new answer for that. Yeah. But now I guess it's it's joy, because it's reconnecting with people. That's been the biggest positive note of this entire year. It's just seeing your face again, seeing Rolf's face again, being back in Germany, and just reconnecting with all the people who matter and understand what heavy metal is about. That's metal.
Fantastic. So we leave it at that, and you can shut up because you still have to have to sing. Yeah, so we have to be careful with your voice. Thanks a lot for talking to us again.
Thank you, Markus. It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much.